Hello. Today we are sharing how at WeSNCF we build our own CDN with HAProxy. So my name is Anton Amélier, and I am a technical architect at eVoyager SNCF.
And my name is Nicolas Bazin, and I'm also technical architect at eVoyager SNCF.
Let me give you a few words about eVoyager SNCF. eVoyager SNCF is a digital company of the SNCF, the French National Railway Company. We operate a lot of applications and a website. As an example, we operate WeSNCF. This website has about 16 million unique visitors per month. And during our peak period, we sell more than 40 train tickets per second. We operate SNCF mobile app too. This application is downloaded more than 12 million times on Application Store, and it has about 40 million visitors per month. At WeSNCF, our journey with HAProxy started a long time ago, in 2009. At this time, we had basic 3-tier application with Apache Web Server, WebLogic Application Server, and Oracle databases. And we were using the WebLogic plugin to load balance traffic between Apache and our web application server. The problem was that we have no visibility on what happened on our infrastructure. We were facing a lot of incidents, and debugging and understanding the issues was difficult. Then, Willy came to our office in Lille and presented us HAProxy. After that, we had HAProxy statistics page and logs. We didn't talk about performance or load balancing capabilities. We just talked about monitoring and observability. Just by looking at HAProxy logs or stats, we were able to understand the problem and the issue we had in production and start working on how to fix it. After that, we have added HAProxy in front of all our applications. Today, we have more than 100 applications in production with HAProxy in front of it. We have added the HAProxy in front of our LDAP servers, SMTP server, and some of our databases. More recently, we have chosen HAProxy as a control plane for our Kubernetes clusters. But today, we are not here to talk to you how we use HAProxy on our on-premise infrastructure. We will tell you why in 2014 we have decided to choose HAProxy in our CDN solution, and why we have built our own CDN solution in replacement of the Akamai previous solution.
So let me briefly explain what is a CDN and why you made the decision to build your own. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. It's an interconnected network of cache servers which speed up display and delivering of web content. Cache server must be located as close as possible to our user in order to allow the most requested resources to become available very quickly. The most known CDN providers are Akamai, Cloudflare, and CloudFront. Using a CDN offers many benefits. It's help minimizing delay in loading web page content by reducing the physical distance between the user and the server. With this cache function, it can respond to end-user requests in place of the origin. For a website like ours, only 10% of requests are reaching origin server. It also provides protection against high traffic peaks in case of marketing events or DDoS attack, by example. Finally, it saves money. CDN bandwidth costs are also cheaper than traditional hosting. CDN infrastructure is composed of 3 types of elements: DNS server, edge server, and origin server. The first component of a CDN, which is also a key component, is DNS. When a user wants to access to our website, he will first query the DNS server of his ISP to get an IP address associated with the requested domain name. In this example, an internet user wants to access to WeSNCF website. The DNS server of his ISP make a request on the DNS server of WeSNCF. They will answer that the DNS record is an alias of a DNS record which is managed by us. Finally, our DNS servers will return according to certain rules, such as availability or DNS geolocation, records with short TTL corresponding to available cache servers. On the IP addresses retrieved, the user is be able to connect to one of our edge servers. The main purpose of an edge server is to cache static resources. If the edge server has the resource in cache, it will deliver it to the client. Otherwise, it will contact the origin server to get it. The origin server is the data center hosting the client application. You can ask yourself, why bother building our own CDN instead of using an off-the-shelf existing solution? Before building our own CDN, we used a large CDN provider, Akamai. Costs were based on the bandwidth, and as our business was growing, costs increasing to significant levels. It was costing us 1.2 million euros per year, and now by managing our own, it costs us 3 times less. Moreover, many of the features we're using were paying options, like real-time log analysis, SSL certificates, multiple origins, or A/B testing. As the majority of our users are located in France, we don't need a worldwide deployed solution. And technically speaking, by managing DNS and CDN, there is nearly no third party between ourselves and our client. We can control from end-to-end our platform, and there is no black box in our application workflow.
So how did we build it? First of all, I would like to point out that one of the key elements that helped the success of this project was that we were the customer of the solution we had to implement. So it was therefore easy for us to decide and to prioritize which element we have to implement. First of all, let me give you a few words about how we have chosen our hosting providers. For performance purposes, we wanted dedicated hardware. So we were looking for hosting providers that could offer us bare metal servers with dedicated pool of public IPs. As we are a small CDN, we can afford not to share the IP between our different clients. We were looking for providers that could offer us DDoS protection and guaranteed bandwidth. Our hosting provider must have a good network connectivity with B2C operators and with our data center ISP. And finally, we wanted to be able to install, configure, and manage the operating system ourselves. So keeping in mind all those prerequisites, we have chosen 4 providers spread across 6 data centers. OVH and Online, which are European key and major providers, and BSO and Iguen Solution, which are less known providers, but with very good network connectivity. As we told you before, to operate a CDN, we need a DNS infrastructure. Most of the features needed by a DNS of a CDN are not available in traditional DNS products, such as Bind or Power DNS. And these features are not available from traditional DNS providers too. To operate a CDN DNS, we need geolocation to return different IP depending on the IP of the clients. We needed IP pool management to return a predefined number of IPs from an available pool of IPs. And we needed write-it shuffle to assign different rights on each one of our edge servers. So after studying several products, we have chosen a server DNS written in Golang by Asbjørn Hansen. Its product powers the NTP pool system. In this product, the zone file, the DNS zone, are described as JSON file. So to update a zone, you just have to upload a JSON file, and the server automatically reload the configuration. In our case, hot reloading is a very important feature because we have to update the DNS configuration frequently. For example, when we detect some problems, or when we have to plan maintenance operation, or even when we have to add new clients. In addition of our own DNS servers, we have added managed DNS providers. In fact, there are not a lot of companies that offer all the DNS features needed by a CDN. So after a quick comparison, we have chosen Dyn, and they offered us advanced DDoS protection and a global presence all over the world to speed up our DNS queries. With this multiple DNS architecture, we are able to distribute the traffic between our two solutions. We have then automatically load balancing and failover in case of problem or latency on some of our servers. To conclude on our technical stack, I would like to describe which components are running on our H server. We have HAProxy, Nginx, and Varnish. On HAProxy, we are running version 1.9, and HAProxy is the entry point and the exit point of our CDN. It means that every request coming from our internet user goes first to HAProxy. HAProxy handles public IPs and SSL certificate. Then HAProxy forwards the request to Nginx. And Nginx is in charge of adding some information to HTTP request, like geo-targeting information, or it handles some other stuff like error handles and some HTTP redirect. On our CDN stack, the cache is performed by Varnish. At WSNCF, we have used Varnish for years before building our own CDN, so at this time it was obvious that we will use Varnish as our caching solution. Thanks to the size of our CDN, most of the objects are directly stored in memory, thus enable faster availability of resources. In this stack, there may be some components that looks duplicates because HAProxy may handle the same stuff as Nginx, and Nginx and Varnish could perform the same stuff too. But we have decided to use the product for what they were designed rather than fit everything on a single product that was not initially made for this need. The last thing I would like to say is the last component that the HTTP request pass through is HAProxy. And by having HAProxy as the entry point and the exit point of our CDN, we have a standardized view of our input and outputs. So it's easy for us to determine error and cache ratio. And when we have some problems, it's easy for us to determine if error comes from our server or if it comes from the origins.
Now we will focus on the HAProxy part, how we use it every day, and how it helps us to detect problems or failures. First, I will explain how we manage configuration files. We have developed an application that acts as a CMDB. This application stores the parameter of our infrastructure and each website or mobile apps which shows our CDN. For each website, we store various informations like caching rules, server where we deploy it, IP or port that be used, feature we want to activate, if we want HTTP2, IPv6 or SNI by example. We can interact with these tools by API or web interface. Our configuration files are then generated in Ruby by ERB template and pushed in our Git repository. After that, our configuration is deployed by Ansible. When it's possible to apply change via CLI, we use Unix socket instead of reloading the HAProxy process. Now I will explain how HAProxy interacts with origin servers. As we explained it before, WSNCF applications are hosted in 2 data centers in active-active. Each data center is called by its public IP and is seen by HAProxy as a server. For each application, we can define which percentage of the traffic we want to route to each data center. For applications which are not stateless, we use cookie for data center persistence. In case of maintenance, our ops teams can modify this percentage with a script that calls the Unix socket to update the weight of the server and regenerate the HAProxy configuration file without reloading this process. For each application, you have set up an HTTP check. So if you lose the data center, all the traffic is automatically redirected to the other. We can also route requests by rule based on the access path using ACL. We have provided a major server that allows contributors to easily publish content such as email for email campaign or large video for the website. HAProxy uses ACL to redirect requests to this server. With the same mechanism, we can also manage the parts of the website which are hosted in the public cloud, like AWS. Now let's talking about the monitoring part. We use Prometheus to collect the metrics of our different components. On each server, we installed HAProxy exporter, Varnish exporter, and a Node exporter for hardware and OS metrics. As we still use HAProxy 1.9, we do not have yet the built-in Prometheus exporter. All these metrics are collected by our Prometheus server, and we can define alerts for from various indicators like HTTP error rate or origin state. With Alert Manager, which is part of Prometheus, we can group and route the alert in email, Microsoft Teams, or Opsgenie by example. For the visualization of metrics, use Grafana and PromVis. PromVis is a fork of a Netflix product using Prometheus data to display the traffic and the error rate between our servers. It's based on the HAProxy exporter and aggregates state data to generate a dynamic view in the WebGL. In reality, it's more fun and prettier than really useful for debugging or analysis.
So this technical part is one of the most important and that we use daily, because HAProxy is the best source of information about the behavior of our CDN. We use it for debugging and for monitoring our platform. With our data engineers team, we have built a solution that streams in real time HAProxy log to our on-premise data centers. Locally, on each of our edge servers, HAProxy sends its log to rsyslog. rsyslog then forwards its log to an Apache Flume process. Flume is in charge of duplicating or duplicates the logs to our on-premise data centers. It handles encryption and the local buffer in case of problem or latency. Once the logs are on our on-premise infrastructure, they are stored in a Kafka topics. Then they are consumed to be stored in Elasticsearch for real-time analysis and in Hadoop for long-term analysis. Before being stored in Elasticsearch, each line of logs are parsed and each field of the log are named and typed. We have developed some Spark jobs that read the raw log in Hadoop, aggregate them, and then store them in Elasticsearch. With our aggregated data, we are able to perform long-term analysis on our application usage. Thanks to this architecture, we are able to produce many dashboards, and we are able to perform requests on any fields coming from HAProxy logs. We use those dashboards on a daily basis, and just by using those dashboards, we are able to diagnose almost every incident. The dashboard on the screen shows you the real-time bandwidth, HTTP return count per application, and traffic distribution between our customers. The last thing we would like to show you is how we deal with stick tables. Currently, we use stick tables to determine if any IP had abnormal behavior. On our productions, stick tables are only local to our servers. We have some scripts that periodically collect the content of the stick table, aggregate them, and store them into a Graphite database. With this solution, we are able to know how much resources consume our top clients, but if we want to know which REP consumes the resources, we have to look in our log files. That's the reason why last summer we have decided to implement a new solution based on HEproxy peer mechanism. This solution is currently under testing on our staging environment. With the new solution, every stick table is pushed to our monitoring servers. And because the communication between peers is not encrypted, we have added dedicated front-end and back-end, which are in charge of encrypting and decrypting the traffic. With this new solution on our monitoring server, we have one stick table per 8 servers. We have sought on different solutions to collect the centralized stick table data, and we have finally decided to use a Python script that will be in charge of reading the centralized stick table data and expose them as a Prometheus metrics. So here is what our edge server configuration looks like. As you can see, we have one peer sections with two peers, the edge server and our monitoring server. You can notice that they both use local port. We have one backend with only a stick table. This backend is named with the server ID. We have two couples of front-end and backend. The first one is in TCP mode, it listens on the public IP, and it has SSL encryption enabled. And this front-end has to decrypt the stick table messages coming from our monitoring server. The second one, has to send the messages to our monitoring server, but before sending the messages, it encrypts it. In fact, because our monitoring server didn't have activities on its stick table, even if the sync mechanism works in both ways, in fact, our edge server only pushed messages to our monitoring server and didn't have any write request. Here is what our configuration looks on our monitoring servers. We have one peer sections per edge servers, and as configured on our edge servers, we have they are listened on local port. We have one stick table per edge servers. It's not visible in this example, but like what we have on our edge server, we have dedicated front-end and back-end that encrypt the messages before sending it to our edge servers. And you can notice that there is one significant difference. On the last front-end, we have only one front-end, and it uses ACL to route the messages to the right stick table by using ACL based on source IP. I didn't say it before, but all this configuration is generated by Ansible during our installation or update process. So all the information are generated or taken from our CMDB. So even if all this configuration seems to be complex, it is in fact just a simple Python JITA template. Finally, I tell you that we have a Python script that must collect the data. In fact, we have found on GitHub an exporter made by SportsRadar, which automatically retrieves all the data from the stick tables and expose them as Prometheus. So thanks to Prometheus, we have the same information we had previously in Graphite, but thanks to Prometheus label, we are now able to easily filter on IP, client IP, or on our edge server name. After listening to the previous call yesterday from Marco, I think, when he talked about data plane API or native client, I think we will soon try this solution to perform a more complex aggregation on those information that are centralized on our monitoring servers. So, 5 years later, what are the lessons for these projects? I think we could say that we have built a reliable solution which fits perfectly our needs. Compared to public CDN solutions, there are some drawbacks, not in our point of view, but there are some tasks that are generally handled by CDN providers that we have to handle ourselves. For example, last year we have implemented IPv6 deployment ourselves. In the same way for HTTP2, we have to configure it and validate it ourselves. We have to manage software updates, operating system updates, and we have to apply security patches too. All those tasks are invisible when dealing with traditional CDN providers. But on our side, we have to anticipate it, and it takes a significant amount of time. On the other side, there are many advantages. We were a small team, just 4 people, and we built an entire infrastructure from scratch. It was, and it is still, a big technical challenge. By having to manage ourselves all the components of the infrastructure, we all have increased our technical skills. Our clients use daily all the monitoring and all the metrics that we provide to us, and it improves their diagnostic capabilities and reduces the incident duration. We all know exactly the behavior of our platforms. And finally, the solution we have to implement costs less than a third of what we paid before with Akamai. When we launched our CDN solution, there were 18 applications on it. Today, there are about 40. During this period, our CDN bandwidth increased to more than 80%, and all that growth with the same infrastructure running cost. So thank you for your attention.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.